So something I've been thinking a lot about, news historically has been a one-way street. Publishers publish content and then the audience consumes it. So now with bots and with conversational journalism, we're inviting our audience to interact back with us. So I'm wondering why? What value is it gives our audience in like participating in this interaction? Anyone can take that.
That sounds like an Andrew question.
Does it sound like a me question?
I mean, I think it's...
Andrew.
So you go ahead.
I think it's about the personalization. Personalization of content is a big thing. What's the next most interesting thing that I could read? And personalizing that to the user rather than the broader segment or some editorial voice really helps with engagement on the business side of things, but also just gives users a better experience. And I think that personal one-to-one is what we're, at least when I think about it, that's the thing I'm after when I'm thinking about bots as a means of communicating.
Yeah, and I would add that the word trust shows up a lot lately, and its counterpart, distrust, is showing up a lot lately. And one of the speakers earlier was talking about the fact that when we talk to people, those walls sort of fall away, and we tend to listen more and trust one another more. And so if you can have these conversations with news organizations, I think that can really change the relationship that people have with us and can really help with trust. I think when people feel heard or feel understood, they're more likely to identify with a news organization as a news organization looking out for them that has their interests in mind, which is really important now.
So flipping that conversation back, like what value, have you seen any value for your journalists in participating in these conversations? I mean, you've all mentioned a little bit, like Andrew, you were saying, the journalists, their eyes are open by like having to participate and write in a different way. Are there other things that you've seen that have been beneficial for people in the newsroom from having these conversations?
I think people are journalists, by allowing themselves to be people, are experiencing more stories that they might not have otherwise put in their copy, right? But that in the case of Sam Manchester, had all these moments that he saw that he might just tell a friend about, but why not tell the tens of thousands of friends that are texting with you about it? And I think that opened his eyes to the kind of storytelling that this more personal experience can unlock. And I think it also exposes our reporters to more real people and to their stories. I mean, there's no better way to get someone's story in front of someone than just to talk to them.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Joey, what have you seen?
Well, the thing I didn't mention in my presentation is we did a similar thing to what the Times did with Sam in the Olympics, but we did it around the presidential debates. So for every presidential debate over SMS, using Twilio, and then powered by a Slack channel with another bot that would take texts and send you updates. We had Aaron Blake from The Fix was powering it, and he introduced himself. And the whole premise of it, because we did some test runs with him, is we're like literally text like you're just texting one person. And we're not going to try to do too much at the beginning. And it doesn't have to be like a link to a story. So we're like no links, photos, GIFs, short text, like what you would send to a friend. It was like really hard for him at the beginning. And till like the first debate, which we just kind of piloted it on with a small group, and he was like, "Oh, it's actually like pretty fun," because he could just like use emojis and kind of like be like, "Whoa," and like it took all this pressure off, and he was like was like gunning to do it every time after that. It was like super fun.
Mm-hmm. And John Quartz has been doing this for a while, like writing in more of like a personal chat-like way. I know you just joined Quartz recently, but from your conversations there and people you've spoken with, do you know if it was much of a learning curve? Like, what was involved in getting journalists to be able to write in this way?
It was based on the original prototypes and a lot of playing with language, a lot of playing with how to actually produce this every day. And one person can't really carry that, so you have to have we have a document that talks about what the personality is, what the flavor is, and as we add writers for the app, you have to kind of get a feel for it and spend some time watching it. As you mentioned, I'm new, and I had a chance to work on it for a day. And what they do, the magic they do to turn it into another voice, the voice of the app, is kind of amazing. I think a lot of people have made the point that the people are key to this. This notion that bots are replacing us, it certainly hasn't happened. We now have a staff of people writing for the bot. So it's definitely how it's evolved.
I feel like a common thread in a lot of the talks so far have been around accountability and trust and fake news. What challenges, if any, have you seen in creating content for these platforms, which have been criticized as perpetuating "quote unquote" fake news?
A lot of challenge. Well, so actually that's why we did that SMS. It's not, which wasn't really even a bot. That was, I think, our second true second-facing, reader-facing thing. Because we'd done the Messenger kind of general news bot, but we did it over SMS because everybody has essentially SMS on their phone, even dumb phones. So we thought that could be more interesting because it was more personal, so it could get people to trust us. And what Aaron was doing in messaging people was always like reinforcing our fact checking, the amount of due diligence we had done to things, the research we had done. And sometimes that ended with like a fire emoji or whatever, but that was fine. Like I think it was just like you felt that one-to-one side of it. That I think Messenger it was just this giant funnel, which was way more. It's 100% a bot, so it felt cold, and that was fine. But the SMS side, we thought that like did a lot for us, and we got a lot of reader feedback over email and through texting back. Of just like how fun it was and how much they learned. And Aaron responded to a few, saying like, thanks. And if you want to know more, like drop me an email, and then would start conversations. So it created this like little bit of community, which then immediately it's like a handshake and you immediately like trust the person more.
I would add that our Slack channel among the writers and editors who are working on the bot spend a lot of time, which I don't think is taught in journalism schools right now, is like the ethics of a particular meme as a animation to go with a news story or in a particular emoji. Like there's a limited number of emoji, and they can be expressing different things. So if you write something and you put a smiley face, but it's about a tragedy, that's problematic. And so there's a lot of debate going on in the Slack channel of what's appropriate, what's not, does this work, does it not, and trying to find that, which is, it speaks to keeping the credibility, but also the playfulness at the same time. And it's not a very easy line to walk sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, it's not just inaccuracies. Is the tone accurate? And it's a lot of editorial judgment there. We don't have a lot of time, but if anyone has any questions and wants to come to either. One question I hear.
Are you the question?
Yeah, can you replace Liz Spade with a bot?
Harsh.
I didn't hear it. I think.
All right, so thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.